All right. Let's get this show on the road. Today is July 6th, 2022. You were in the Tiger Discord chat room where you were in a series of question and answer period with CFOs, CEOs from companies. We have today Magen Mcgahee of Galaxy Next Generation, who is nice enough to join us. You there, Magen?
And thank you guys for inviting me in.
You're very welcome. All right, Tiger Discord is made up of about 10,000 people of poor, rich, just leisurely traders, no companies, no hedge funds that I'm knowledgeable about. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to read the protection statement for Magen, myself, and Tiger Discord and Galaxy Next Generation. I would like to remind everyone listening that Magen may make statements during this call that are or could include forward-looking statements within the meaning of the call that could be the meaning of the federal security laws. Forward-looking statements are not limited to historical facts, but contain information about future operating or financial performance. Forward-looking statements are based on current expectations and assumptions and involve risk and uncertainties, and they could cause actual results or events to be materially different from those anticipated. That is that. And Magen, if you wouldn't mind, just give a little background on yourself.
Yeah, sure. My education was first all about education itself. I graduated with an undergraduate in early childhood education and became a school teacher. That's kind of what has driven the entrepreneurial spirit of where we focus currently, which is in the ed tech market. And I worked very short stint in the education system, only about 3 years before I moved over to the corporate side and worked in educational sales leadership, worked as a lobbyist at one point on educational funding projects. And then, of course, in 2014, decided to start my own company with our co-founder, Gary Lee Croy. And that's kind of where the first rendition of Galaxy came from. And then, of course, the company has expanded and grown and evolved since then.
Right on. Well, basically in that paragraph, you just said you're very smarter than I am. So,
I wouldn't go that far.
so how about Galaxy Next Generation? Just maybe a brief timeline on the inception of it, how it's evolved, and what your focus is.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it was founded at the end of 2014, and it was kind of a piggyback off of Gary's other company or original company, LaCroix Educational Technology, which has been around since the early 2000s, 2001, and it was more focused on a reseller of other products, some of the bigger names in the interactive whiteboard space, Promethean. And he grew that company to a $30 million company before we really kind of took a look in the mirror and said, why are we making money for other companies? Let's do this on our own. We have the back knowledge and the customer base to be able to bring our own products to market. And so in 2014 we launched Galaxy, and at that point it was really just the interactive panel line. I had previously worked right before Galaxy for a company called Como, which was the first interactive panel that came to the United States from a Chinese manufacturer, and brought that panel here and kind of learned the ropes of manufacturing overseas through that. And so we really only ran the company privately with that one product line through 2015, 16, 17. And then in 2018 was the first time we really, wanted to make a go at it, right, and grow the company both from financial side, but also product line side, and add more products into the scope. And that's when we decided to take the company public. We did so, through a reverse merger into a unique marriage with a company that actually approached us, who was looking to become private. They were a movie theater company. They own several movie theaters throughout Indiana. And so we took over their public company and spun them out into a private company so that we could both get what we needed out of the transaction. And that gave us, access to the capital markets. And 2019, we closed 2 acquisitions to expand the product line into the classroom audio and bell paging and intercom division. 2020, we closed an asset purchase to really expand our buying power overseas. And so now, of course, our product line has 10 core products on it versus just the one, and tons of intellectual property along the way. So that's kind of our claim to fame is really that, we are an ed tech company that makes product, which is very rare in the US. And so that's also given us an advantage over some of our competitors in the space as well.
Megan, as you're talking, I'm going back in my head. You have your main headquarters is in Georgia, and then if I'm not mistaken, you have a subsidiary or distributor area in Colorado, Arizona, and Florida, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So headquarters is about an hour and a half north of Atlanta. And then we have satellite offices. They're all, our full-time offices in Broomfield, Colorado, which is right outside of Denver, Peoria, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix, and Jacksonville, Florida. And then we now have satellite or remote offices, work from home type offices in, let's see, we have one in Maryland, Pennsylvania, two in Texas, two in Utah. I think that pretty much covers it. So really good expansion at this point throughout the whole U.S.
Yeah, you've definitely, I mean, myself, I came across you guys probably 2019, 2020-ish. And since that time, you've definitely expanded just in that amount of time. And then one other thing that you touched on, intellectual property, and I'm going off the top of my head. If you had to estimate, I mean, how many patents or intellectual property do you guys own that's uh it's core to Galaxy next generation off the top of your head? You don't have the exact amount. I'm just a rough.
Yeah, so we do have two patents that have been fully issued. Both of them are relating to the classroom audio products and some of the accessories that go with those. We have three additionals that are pending the provisional stage. So that means they've been accepted and kind of going through the wait period that the patent office makes you go through. So we expect those to be issued, anytime, right? They don't really give you a time frame when
Yeah,
you're
that's a
going through
pretty lengthy
right.
process, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you just get surprised one day with a new patent in the mail is really how that works once you're going through the process. But
Uh,
so we do have three additional ones there. And then a lot of our intellectual property is all based in code too. I mean, we write our own code, we write our own firmware, we have our own user interface. So, we've registered a lot of the way that looks with the trademark office and have protected all of that, underneath our Galaxy umbrella as well.
that's cool. And it's good to know. All right, on. Well, if it's cool with you, we'll go ahead into the questions. These questions were submitted prior to us with the interview. There was a like a little room channel that investors submitted questions. I'm taking directly from that. And then I'll just ask you one by one. If there's something you want to elaborate on, something you want to go into more in depth, by all means, have at it. So is there any questions that you have for me or anything like that?
No, that sounds good. Let's get to it.
Let's hit it. All right. Number one, how many schools and districts have shown interest or agreed to the installation of the G2 visual alerts following the offer made by Galaxy Next Generation? And then a follow-up to that question, will Galaxy follow up with these schools and offer more of the product line?
Yeah, so I think at this point we're up to, let's see, as of today, maybe 47 school districts that have taken advantage of the G2 visual alerts, free for a year donation. And I don't know how many schools that is off the top of my head. Some of the districts are smaller, some are larger, but the whole concept was really twofold from the get-go, right? I mean, it's a philanthropic effort, first and foremost, by Gary and I, of wanting to make sure that the schools know that there are solutions out there to help in those crisis situations that unfortunately have become more and more prevalent with everyone returning to school, in a post-pandemic world. But the second fold is, I mean, it's a business decision, right? We're in business, so that's everything is based around making money, and we did see it as a foothold into school districts that we may not have been able to get, a call into and a phone call answered right away, now we've, have a foothold in there to go back and say, hey, appreciate you taking advantage of the donation. Let us talk to you about what Gaxy does. And obviously, donating a portion of the fuller package, which is G2 Secure, with just donating the visual alerts also leads into an upsell opportunity for our regional managers to go back in there and say, hey, you're really utilizing this portion of it. Let me show you the rest of it, what it all can do. And so, yeah, we definitely are glad schools are taking advantage of it. I wish every school in the U.S. would contact us so that we could at least give them a communication plan in place. And if it leads to, the further expansion for them on what Gaxy does, then that's just a win-win for us.
Well, it's kind of crazy to me. About a month or so ago, the unfortunate incident that happened in Texas was a Texas school shooting. You put out a tweet, and I commented back on it. And such an unfortunate incident, but in my opinion and ideas, if schools or private schools or even companies knew of the technology that you had, and let's just hypothetically say it saves one life or the injury of one person, it's done its job. I mean, I've delved in your technology, the technology that any kid that has a smart device or tablet or phone can be notified of an incident or of an emergency in a school or workplace setting with the escape routes or where the threat is. It's mind-boggling to me that more of those businesses or schools don't take advantage of that type of technology.
Yeah, I mean, the mind-boggling part too for us is it's almost like people are terrified of the word free at this point. They think there's like a gotcha to it
What's the
or
hook?
return.
Or yeah.
Yeah, like what is this company trying to do to us? And so I think there's a little bit of that going on with the reception that we've seen, but I think we've gotten a lot of feedback too from media outlets, and we're trying to balance, the summer months where a lot of the admin at the school district level have, gone on vacation, especially with the 4th of July week being with us. And so we do expect to put, some pretty heavy marketing behind it using some of these news outlets that have reached out to us leading back into going back to school. So we've seen a lot of schools take advantage of it, but we do anticipate even more so once they get back in the groove of a new school year and realizing that, oh, hey, I should probably do something about this.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think it's something that's going to go away. I think, like any product, word of mouth. Again, if it does prevent one tragedy, one injury, one death, or anything of the sort, I mean, that's nothing of a benefit to you guys, And hey, this is what we use. This is what helped us. This is what averted this tragedy or this emergency or shooting. I think that bodes well for you guys as a business. And again, unfortunate as it is, not trying to make money off a crisis or anything like that, but you have the technology and the resources to assist in that kind of stuff. So we'll go on to number 2. What kind of feedback has Gaxy Next Generation received from customers using the G2 alert? Does the company know how response times compare to facilities without this feature?
Yeah, so this is kind of a challenge, right? And kind of piggybacks off of something that you just said, because ideally, we don't want school districts to have to use the alert portion, right? That means that
Yeah.
they're in a crisis situation. And so, we don't really have anything to compare it to yet because we don't have a customer that, thank God, has, had to experience using it in that situation. What we do or have done is really focus on encouraging those that are adopting it to use it for their regular daily communication platform. So, for example, if they want to send out happy birthday messages to every device, depending on which students have birthdays that day, or don't forget the pep rally after school, or don't forget Friday's early dismissal, whatever they're typically using their intercom for, use the visual communicator portion on a regular daily basis too, so that it's not coming down to that crisis moment where they say, oh, we installed something a year ago. I know we were trained on how to use it, but now that we're in the moment, we have no idea how to initiate a lockdown. And so that's been a big push for us. Is we don't have that comparison data, that you're asking for. But again, that's a fortunate thing. And so we're just trying to make sure that it doesn't get put on a shelf, so to speak, and not used until that crisis happens. We're definitely encouraging them to use it every day, daily, to get them used to doing it so that it becomes just second nature if there was an emergency event.
So Megan, I live out in California. As a kid, we used to do earthquake drills and fire drills and things of that nature. Is your G2 system set up to where if the school company or private schools outfitted with that system, can you once a month do a dry run, a test where it does evacuation plans and runs through the program?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. All the above. And that's really, we've marketed it, unfortunately, as the crisis, active shooter, because that's what's gone on so much lately. But to your point, I mean, we're coming into hurricane season, right? So
Yeah.
growing up in Florida, you had earthquakes, I had hurricanes. And so
Yeah.
it's one of those things where they'll start to utilize it for all of those type of drills, fire drills, tornado drills, hurricanes, wherever you live geographically, you get your own school drills, but it can be used in every single one of those events, and uses the monitoring device to make sure that all the students are accounted for too.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Right on. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next question then. Has Galaxy Next Generation received any interest for their products outside the ed tech space?
I mean, yeah, we have specifically in the Northeast. We hired a manufacturer's rep firm, a partner called CNC Tech Group, several months back. I think we actually released a press release about it, but they have a heavy focus in what I'll call the enterprise division. So they sell a lot to conference rooms and corporate offices where they may have one panel and a higher end video conferencing center, an audio center. And so they've definitely kind of shifted that narrative for us to say, hey, these Galaxy panels aren't just for kids. They're not just for schools. They can be used in these conference room settings too. And so we're definitely seeing an uptick there. But to that point, when you sell to a corporation, you may get one or two conference rooms, one or two panels. When you sell to a school, you have 50 classrooms in a small school, right? So our focus is still very heavily on the education market. But we definitely don't turn down, any business that's brought our way in those other verticals as well.
Yes, I understood. I mean, I work for a company that does a lot of training, and I mean, we have hundreds of cadre or trainers and stuff, So, I mean, that's definitely another foot in the door or avenue of revenue or products right there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Pretty much any business that does any type of teaching, right? Any type of job training, it can utilize any of our tools.
I like it. All right, right on. How does Galaxy Next Generation plan to find favorable funding in the future? And then a caveat, piggyback to that is: do investors come to you and make offers, or does management seek for the best options through private funding or bank/conventional business loans?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question. I guess I'll try to answer it in segments. But market conditions. You guys know you're in the market. You're trading. I mean, they just suck right now. It is what it is. There's nothing really that any company can do about it. So raising any type of money in these conditions is almost impossible. And I think the strong-willed companies are looking for unconventional type lending outside of the market to kind of navigate through these waters until the conditions stabilize and lend themselves to more shareholder friendly type devices. So we've definitely moved towards what I'll call traditional bank loans, where since we are a more favorable company in terms of net positive EBITDA and working towards profitability and higher revenues and not a lot of debt on our books, we're able to get those type of short-term working capital loans and pay them back. And so that's really what we've done, this year since January or even before, when we extinguished, the equity line last year. And so we haven't, really used the market for anything up until this point of the year. And we're just trying to really watch market conditions before we raise any type of large capital. And we've been able to do that. I mean, even Gary, our CEO, he's loaned the company $350,000, I think, this past year so far, and of course all that will be disclosed in our upcoming 10K. But we're doing everything that we can in order to not have to take advantage of an unhealthy market, and we'll continue to do so.
Okay, makes sense. Can you give us an overview on supply chain status and inventory? Are there any issues? And if so, how do you plan to overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, of course there's issues. I think the issues have changed. When the pandemic was first a thing, all the issues seem to be related to components and overseas supplies and getting product here. And we've seen a lot of that flush itself out. We don't have these long lead times for parts any longer. And our interactive panel manufacturer has been, pumping out pretty steady inventory for us. The problems that we actually are seeing now are more stateside, logistically from a truck driver standpoint, making sure that stuff is getting picked up timely from the port if it's an import and delivered to us, or just getting things shipped out to a school district. And of course, now that it's summertime, there's limited hours of recipients for a lot of these customers. And so, yeah, I mean, everything is a balance on the logistics side still, but as far as us being able to get the product that we need to sell to the customers that have orders, that really has subsided and kind of flushed itself out at this point.
Well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll forward your guys' information or your suppliers that PS5 or PlayStation does, because I've been trying to get my hands on one for about 2 years now. And yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially with the automobile industry and everything else. So that's good to hear from your point of view.
Yeah, and I mean, even like you mentioned the automobiles, right? So our classroom audio solution uses the same semiconductors that all the automobiles were short on for 2 years. And so we've done things like go out and buy 30,000 components that we knew were on a short list, so that we could try to prevent future damage on the supply chain. And that really was, a smart move, I think. That was a Gary decision, and that was a smart move on his behalf, even before we knew how bad it was going to get. So we've been able to really kind of continue to build based on that without having to even go out and search for additional components right now.
Well, I say we get Gary on eBay and start listing those on there for at least 3-4 times what he bought them for.
Yeah, if we didn't need them, that would be the smartest route possible for sure.
All right. Could you expand on recently announced partnerships? How are the majority of these deals structured? And do the partners receive a percentage of the sales? As investors, we are excited to hear of several partnerships over the last couple of years. Just curious as to how beneficial these are to the company's growth.
Yeah, so I think it's been a challenge in the past. We get this question a lot to try to explain how our sell through channel works, and so I think maybe I'll try to go down that route, but we don't often sell directly to the school, right? So we have in the consumer world what we would refer to as retail shops throughout the U.S. And so we sell to these resellers, and we call them partners, right? Because we're all in it for the same goal. And then they turn around and sell to their local school districts. And so that is really what we refer to when we announce a new partner is we have a new reseller that has come on board to sell our product. So it's like gaining a new customer. The only difference is that customer has 100 customers or more. I don't it depends on the size of the reseller. And so it doesn't affect our profit margins because we sell to them at what we've always sold to them at, and then they pick the price in which they want to sell our products to their end users. And we do provide a suggested end user, and of course we have an MSRP and a MAP that they can't exceed, but we don't set their pricing. Our profit margins are based on what we're selling to those resellers at. So of course, the more partners we have, the more resellers we have, then the more customers we have, the more sales we have. And so we've really focused heavily this past year on growing that channel. And I think this time last year we may have had 31 resellers. We're probably up to 49, 50 at this point in the year, and so it's been a pretty big success for us, and we're starting to see a lot more sales come through the channel versus directly from a school. And that takes a lot of the, grind off of our sales reps, right? Because the reseller is the one going out, doing the demo, doing the sales presentation, providing support, doing the training. And we're just able to move on to the next sale and not have to get bogged down into one customer. And so the whole concept is really much more scalable than going end user to end user for us.
So if I can interject and dumb it down a little bit, because I'm definitely not as smart as you, almost like a car dealership where you are basically, I'm just going to pick one out of the sky, your Ford or GM. You produce the vehicle, the dealership buys the vehicle at a certain price, and then the dealership is responsible for the upsell and all that kind of stuff, if I'm not mistaken, and deals with the customer and all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and your warranty is still with Ford, right? Or whoever the car is. So we're
Correct.
still covering the manufacturing and the warranty and everything else, but yeah, they're the reseller to the customer. And another analogy that I use quite often is, think about like Rubbermaid containers or totes. Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, all these companies sell Rubbermaid. Well, Rubbermaid's the brand. They're resellers in that scenario, or all of these retail big box shops that sell their product. Their margins don't change. Whatever Home Depot buys from them is what they buy from them, and then whatever they make on it is what they make.
Okay, that makes sense to me. All right. Would a large advertisement campaign improve sales and help expand into new territories? And has Galaxy Next Generation looked at costs for something like this?
Yeah, advertising campaigns are probably one of the the hardest thing for this kind of niche market of ed tech that we're in, because they just don't work like you would expect for a consumer brand. A new iPhone comes out, you plaster it all over a commercial, everyone rushes out and buys a new iPhone. We're our IT people, our superintendents, our principals aren't looking for the next big thing and what's going to improve their student engagement on a huge advertising campaign. They do, more targeted focus on call outs and making sure they're doing research on what products work best and what companies are best. And so we try to focus more of our marketing dollars on, white papers and funding guides and research based sales approaches. But with the launch of the donation of G2 Visual Alerts, we did have a good outreach from eSchool News, and we've recently gone into a partnership with them. And eSchool News, for those that don't know, they're a huge publication in the edtech market. They have a huge following, very well respected, very well renowned, and so they're going to be working with us from now up until the end of September to ramp up our marketing efforts and get that information out there. And so we're excited to see what type of impact that has.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And but right below that, there was basically a sub question to that, or a suggestion, and it was, I think, a reenactment of an active shooter situation in a school equipped with the G2 software or system would be eye-catching marketing. Please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely would be eye catching. This is one of those touchy subjects again, where though you have two types of people in the world: people that see that as a good marketing idea, and people that scold you for trying to sell into fear. So it's a fine line that we try to cross. And it actually reminds me of a time that I tweeted an article, a publication that we had gotten picked up in, that I had written by I think it was Campus Security Magazine or Campus Life Safety. And the image of the article, which obviously we didn't pick out, it was published by the magazine. They picked it out, was a student, holding a gun in that same type of situation where they were walking into school. Well, of course, I got blasted for the article, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't, I'm not the editor at large for Campus Safety magazine, and so it's just a fine line. I do think that having that visual of really showing what that looks like in a crisis situation is important. I think we have to figure out internally how to do that without giving the impression that we're trying to feed off of people's fear. And that's a really hard thing to balance.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Could you elaborate further and bring some clarity to your statement made in it is in quotes, proactive YouTube interview, quote, about, quote, hefty acquisition plan to extend the products and intellectual property. End of quote.
Yeah, sure. I'm flattered, first of all, that I'm quoted. I guess I should put that on my headstone at this point and make sure that that it's trackable. But we've
It was
always.
by me. Don't get too crazy.
Oh, okay, okay, good to know. Um, well, yeah, so I mean, we've always been pretty open, I think, and upfront about our plans for acquisition. And that hasn't slowed down. That hasn't changed. We are in active communication with a couple of companies. I think that we're getting pretty close to being able to share more information about that. And so at this point, I think I'll just leave it at that. That's all I'm comfortable saying.
And that's perfectly in your right to do so. Does Galaxy have the ability to downsize the interactive panel and use that same tech to engineer a smart desk?
So that's actually funny. We've done that before. I mentioned the company prior to Galaxy, that was an ed tech company that we owned and ran, and it actually had a student desk, a student touch desk that we brought to market. The U.S. market is simply just not ready for that. You think about classroom budgets and how much money schools get. Now, of course, they're getting more this year and next year and into 2024 because of the stimulus packages and things that rolled down. But those products are still extremely pricey. You're talking about taking a touch monitor, a 27-inch touch monitor, and putting it in a student desk on all the electronics that are involved in that. And of course, they have to run on power, right? So how many outlets can you have in a floor of a school building without completely remodeling the room? And so it really was a failed product. I mean, we brought it to market temporarily, absolutely no space for it in the US because of all the remodel that would have to take place for a product like that. And Chromebooks came out quickly after that. iPads became in schools. So it just wasn't feasible and it wasn't economical. But to answer the question, I mean, essentially we can do whatever we want with our touch panel product. It just has to make sense in the education market, and that product, just didn't.
Yeah, and then you have a 15-year-old like me that's in high school that's etching his initials into them or whatever else.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the overhead of having to replace them is
Yeah,
is another aspect of it.
if a large amount of funding is received, what part of the business would you focus on growing first?
So that's an easy one for me, right? The highest margin one. And for us right now, that's anything communication. So classroom audio with G2 Link, huge margins in that product because we are manufacturing it there in Arizona. And then of course G2 Communicator, which is our bell paging and intercom platform, which is part of G2 Secure, which is that visual alerts and all the HAT and the first responder communication. All of those products, especially the communicator and secure, I mean, that's 100% profit margin. Those products have been developed. We've already expenditured all the R&D. That was part of all the money that we've raised over the past couple of years. And so every time we sell that product now, that's just pure, that's pure profit to the company. That's stuff that's real money that we can do real things with. And so, any additional investment at this point is going all to those core super high margin products to get us to a speedy path of profitability, and the products that aren't as commoditized, right? Our interactive panel, there's 30 other interactive panel manufacturers in the US now, and so we still sell it. There's still a ton of desire for it. We have ordered shipping out today for it, but that would not be our focus, obviously, with any increase or influx of cash.
Maybe you could put something to rest, or there's always been a rumor and I used to catch so much heat for this a year or two ago. You just mentioned the Bell and Intercom system. What is there another company called now Galaxy Next Generation, which I would imagine is a trademark or copyright infringement, that does basically the same thing that you just explained with first responders or emergency personnel? Or is that just you?
Just us. So there's another company out there that a year ago or so, their slogan was the next generation of communication. Their company name was not Galaxy Next Generation, and they did, the intercom business, but G2 Secure, what we're doing with emergency communication involving the chat with the first responders and having all of the monitoring of what's going on in the building, that is absolutely proprietary towards us, and protected for that matter. So if you find out that that rumor is true, please do send them my way.
I will, most def. All right. And then in the future, do you expect G2 Secure to become a larger revenue generator than interactive panels?
Yeah, I mean, I think dollar wise, it's going to take it a while to catch up, right? Because interactive panels are so expensive. So if we're talking about top line, we sell 3 panels for the same thing that we sell an entire school building of G2 Secure. But profit margin wise, right, G2 Secure would have to do a lot less in revenue for the bottom line to become extremely profitable. And so, yeah, I mean, we definitely see it taking over. It's already become, the whole communicator line has already become about 50% of our revenue. And so if we can continue to grow that, then it will quickly, meet up to the top line of what the panels are bringing into.
Okay, cool. Next question looks like it is the elephant in the room. Going to put you on the spot. And it says there were multiple questions that included concerns about share structure and dilution. As a shareholder yourself, I'm sure you understand how a reverse split and dilution impacted long-term investors. Please comment on the following items as you see fit. And I'm sorry to tattoo you here, but there's 5 of them. Current convertible notes, future dilution, what is money raised being used for, and has reverse split attracted more prominent / reliable investors, and with the plans to keep / benefit current and long-term investors?
Yeah, so I definitely felt the tattoo gun. Appreciate that.
That was about 20 questions in one, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think back. What was the first one here? So,
I hear.
maybe the best way.
Let's do
I
it just
think
one by. I'll do it one by
Well,
one.
no,
How's that?
let's do it this way. I think the best way to attack it is, why did we do a reverse split to begin with? Let's start with that. What was that process like? Where did that come from? Why was it necessary? What does it do for the company? And then I think we can kind of hit on the others, and you can remind me maybe as we go if I miss one of the questions. But Galaxy was really in a situation where capital was needed to get over our startup phase, right? Like we've been a startup ever since we went public, and trying to bring new products to market, trying to make these acquisitions happen. And if you've traded any length of time in the OTC markets, I'm sure you're aware that favorable lending in the OTC in general is really non-existent. Now, of course, the regulators have come down pretty hard on people over the past year. Kind of a two-edged sword, though. It's definitely made these toxic lenders wake up and realize that they can't take advantage of companies like Galaxy and shareholders like you guys anymore. But it also made it a lot harder for companies to find money, right? Because they're not lending money to these OTC companies that are pre-revenue or not performing or whatever the case may be. And so, we got kind of caught in that tunnel, right? As a startup company of toxic lending and conversion features that were not favorable. And you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, we got to grow the business. We don't have any other choice. We got to keep our doors open. We got to feed the animal to make it a beast one day. And so, even though we took steps to try to protect everything as much as we could, extinguish the equity line, not issue any additional shares. Once we stopped all capital raise altogether, the stock price still went down, right? It wasn't going back in the other direction. There wasn't enough buying to stabilize it. And we had been delinquent from our, OTCQB status for 30 days plus 30 plus 30. The OTC really respects us as a company, and they were able to give us extension after extension. And so we looked at all other alternatives to try to make sure that we were staying of the caliber of company that we want to stay with the QB status. And I think the thing that was kind of like the nail in the coffin for us is we had this huge opportunity on the table with some charter schools in Texas. They had like 200 schools, and we had gotten to the finish line with them on the bid process, and the guy literally called us up and said, hey, I really respect your products. I really think what you guys are doing is great. I looked into your company, though, and I'm concerned about you because of your share price. And we're like, what? How are you using that against us at this point when you've seen the products, you know what we're capable of? But it became an effect on our customers where we weren't respected as a company anymore based on what they were seeing online. And basically telling us like, hey, we're going to go with someone that's trading at $1 just because they're trading at $1 versus a half a cent because we're worried you're not sustainable. And so we had to correct two things. We had to correct the capital structure, which had become over diluted from toxic lending, and we had to correct the perception of our customers to get to the next level. And I know there's been a lot of question on whether or not the decision was made for our long-term shareholders, but it absolutely was, because there was no way that we were going to come out on top as a viable, respected company of growth to execute on that next level at the place that we were on the OTC, with as many shares outstanding and the price that we were at. And so that's where that came from. And then we'll fast forward to the second part of the question, and I'll take a breath here if you want to interject. But secondly, we didn't want to do it and then be in the same spot that we were in, right? It doesn't benefit any of us long term if we went through that reverse split and then started right back down the same path of toxic lending. And so we had to make sure as a company too that we were sustainable and to a point where we could cash flow our operations under these short-term non-toxic loans or favorable equity without reinventing the same path that we had just gone down. And so we got to that point and the timing was right. And we haven't. We don't have any convertible debt on the books today. We do have some debt. It's just term loans, as I spoke to before, with traditional banks or traditional lenders. and we intend to, keep it that way. If we raise capital in the future under favorable equity terms, of course, there will be shares issued to do that, but it will be for accretive acquisitions, new product development, new hires, things that really affect the top and bottom line of the company, and not just because, we need an extra $100,000 or whatever the story on the street is, right? And so, is there a specific part of the question you think that we need to focus on at this point?
No, I think you need to take a sip of water, take a breather, and I'll do some talking right now. I don't get the vibe at all that you guys are raising $100,000 to go blow a weekend of Coke out in Vegas. And I'll piggy that by saying this is my opinion and my opinion only. I've paid attention to the company, your company, you, Gary, for the last couple years. I don't get the vibe or the opinion that there's any type of shenanigans with your company. I will say that via social media, you get attacked, and it is unwarranted. You're in the market of running a business. You obviously are well trained, educated, and have the motivation to do what you're doing. You had to do what you had to do. People get emotionally attached to their stocks and their investment. And I would say people have to look at the big picture. You guys made a decision and a move that I think will better the company. And I think the personal attacks and the stuff I see in social media or Twitter, even sometimes Discord and whatever all the other nonsense out there, I think is unwarranted. It's not cool. It's, I don't think there's any nefarious actions going on by you, the company, employees, or anything else. I think it's a legit business, and I think nothing but the good for the future for Galaxy Next Generation.
And I appreciate you saying that. I think the other important thing for people just to keep in their mind too is Gary and I were both affected by the reverse split as well. We were both affected by the dilution as well. I mean, when we first took the company public, we had almost 90% ownership in the business. And so, every decision that we have made has been a direct hit to both of us too. Not, we would never take a hit to our shareholders without taking that same hit to us. And so that's just something, to keep in mind, that if you see that decision being made, it's a very calculated decision because it does affect us personally as well. Just like you say, people take decisions personal when it involves their money. Well, yeah, before taking the company public, I think Gary and I combined put in about 6 million to get it up and running. And so, it's a very personal decision for me as well.
Well, and I think you know that stands to reason that you've put your money where your mouth is, and you believe personally in your company, and it speaks a lot to me, and it means a lot to me, and it means that you have that motivation, that drive, and you're not just gonna walk away and say, "Oh well, that didn't work out." That you are going to stick with it, for the goals and the future of Galaxy Next Generation.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're here. We're not
All
going
right.
anywhere.
I like to hear that. All right, let's move on. I think we addressed all those things. Let me just glance at it real quick. Well, there was one that wasn't touched on. Has the reverse split attracted more prominent, reliable investors, do you think?
Oh yeah, good question. So, yeah, it has. In fact, we presented at a investment conference. I don't know, maybe it was 3 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know how long ago. LD Micro out in California. We were not even invited to that conference last year. We've never been invited to it before because of stock price and capital structure. So there's things like that the reverse split has opened a whole new window up for us of investors that I'll call like second tier, third tier investors that don't look at companies unless they're a reputable share structure and a decent, price. And they're the type of investors that are not, toxic convertible note lenders that are really true institutions and investors that want to be in the company for the long haul. So, we've had conversations with people, in the past month or two that that would have never had conversations with Galaxy in the past. And that's
Well,
been
that's good to hear, because I mean, a real institutional investor wants a product. They want a company that they can believe in. They want a company that, like you said, has cleaned up their share structure, and they know that you're not slanging phone cards out there, or just some random product, So that's actually really good to hear.
yeah, that's right.
Are you still paying lawyers and accountants in stock?
Um, hmm. So I don't know that we have ever paid our lawyers or accountants in stock. We at one point did have an active registration, an S8, which is what you use to pay, consultants in lieu of cash, or employees. Like that would also be what your employee stock plan would be rolled up underneath. We currently do not have an active S8, so we don't have any registered shares to pay those type of people with. At this point, we're handling all of our audit, accounting, legal fees with operational cash.
Okay, cool. And don't kill the messenger. These are these are not my questions. All right. What sort of stock incentives do you currently have for employees?
So we do have, stock options, I'll call it, for employees, not your traditional stock options. We have employees that take, restricted shares in lieu of bonuses or commission from time to time. We are currently working with our legal team on a formal employee plan. It's a non-traditional plan that's going to include, several different ways of employees to gain stock in the company. And so, we were hoping that, in fact, I emailed them today and was told that they'd have all the details back to me by the end of the week. So we are hoping to have that in place. And once we have the details fleshed out with legal, we'll, make a formal announcement to the market on that as well.
All right, right on. And this is kind of off that path, but what is the current reseller count? The number has been listed at 39 for a few years now.
Yeah, that will be updated in our upcoming 10K. I think that's where we make an annual count update. And I mentioned earlier, I think we're up to close to 50, 48, 49. I don't know where the exact number is as of today, but we'll definitely get that updated here in the annual report.
Okay, right on. And then how much interest have you seen in the free 1 year G2 communication offer?
Yeah, I think that's a piggyback on maybe the first or second question. I mean, we've definitely had, I think 45, 46, I don't remember the exact number of school districts sign up for it at this point. And, every time we've shown it at trade shows and things like that, we definitely have people fill out the form to participate, right then and there. And the eSchool News partnership launching here, in the next week or so, going all the way into when schools are back in session. I think we'll see another major push of interest for that. So I can keep you guys updated as we get more and more people involved.
And then just to piggyback on that and ask a question for myself, out of curiosity, when you go to a trade show, what is the reaction to a potential customer or client or someone that's at the trade show and you do that presentation? I mean, what would their typical reaction be? Like, this, I've never seen anything like this before, or this is cool, or blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
most of them are like, wow, I didn't know, I didn't know that this existed, right? And I think a lot of them are trying to build what we have by piecemealing other products together. A lot of schools go out and adopt, um, you know, locks or mag locks or access control, and then they go out and adopt, part of their student information system may have a parent messaging portal where they can email parents through it. And so, there's multiple little kind of software and hardwares out there that if you pay, $250,000 to get all of them under one building, then you kind of have something maybe that compares to G2 Secure. But when they see it all coming from one company and it's under one, UI, one user interface, one platform, whatever you want to call it, and it's, an annual fee of 8,000 for a site or whatever it is, depending on your school size, then they're blown. I mean, their minds are blown, and I'm very happy that trade shows are back this year live. We've done the three major ones already with the Florida show, the Texas show, and now the one last week was the national technology show. And the feedback that we've been given, it's twofold, right? It's great because we're getting all these leads for the product, but it's also affirmation that the product that we've developed is what needed to be developed for the market. So we're excited to see, once school gets back, how they're implementing it and what the feedback is in the field.
Oh, cool. All right, we're almost to the end. There's two more. This is second to the last. I love your products and your vision for education. Unfortunately, not so impressed with the handling of your finances. What plans do you have to grow your company without driving off investors who believe in and want to support your vision?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? You think I've answered that one throughout? I mean, I can rehash, some of the more particulars, and I appreciate the question, and I appreciate whoever asked it being passionate about, what we do and believing in our vision. I think that, you'll have to just kind of hang in there to see the management of the finances and how they haven't improved and how we will continue to make them improve. And a lot of decisions that are being made now, that we'll be able to share here in the near future will build that confidence back up for anyone that doubts the, ability for us to be a more managed, finance managed company.
Okay, cool. And last but not least, I'm pretty stoked on this one. I came up with it myself, so stand by. If a person, a parent, or a citizen thinks your product is suitable for their company, school district, or daycare, or private school, and reaches out to said education institute or company and puts you in touch with them, would or can there be some sort of incentive or reward program for putting them in touch with Galaxy Next Generation, a sales rep, and a contract being put in place if everything is on the up and up and there's an open bidding and no shenanigans or backdoor deals? Or has Galaxy Next Generation explored a program similar to that?
So this is your question. This is your way of making a little side hustle with Galaxy,
Hey,
introducing us to.
I'm saying if I know someone on the school board and I say, you've never seen this product before, it's awesome. It could save lives. It could be a betterment to the school district or school that my kid is in. What's in it for me?
Yeah, so I mean, all joking aside, yeah, we've ran programs that are similar to like a finder's fee in the past. I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. There's nothing, sketchy about it. It's part of our business model, and We run in a circle where we have, some very affluent people in the ed tech market, and they know, the superintendent of, Chicago Public Schools, for example, or, another large school district. And if they make that introduction and they're able to walk us in the door and they're able to help us close a deal, then by all means, they are definitely eligible for a finder's fee on that. No different than how finder's fees work for mergers and acquisitions or other larger corporate um, transactions. So the details I'll leave to the side, and if you have that opportunity, we can have a side conversation of what that contract looks like. But the 30,000 foot answer is yes, we can do that, and we have done that.
See, I'm out there making deals already. If you're listening, man, start hustling, slang that Galaxy equipment and gear.
That's
So
right. We just expanded our sales team.
yeah, right there, and you don't have to pay workers' comp, insurance, or anything else.
There you go.
Anyways, finally, Megan, you didn't pull any punches. You answered every question. You were straightforward. I appreciate it. I know people that are invested or potential investors are impressed with that. Yeah, would you like to add any information, news, lottery ticket numbers, anything we didn't cover in our interview?
No, I mean, I'm definitely not putting myself out there for a liability on a lottery ticket number, so I'll
Come on, I slipped that
skip
in.
over that one. Yeah, and, no, I mean, I'll just say that I know that there's a lot of long-term investors in this group, and I'm very well aware of the support that a lot of you have shown Galaxy on other social media platforms, or even in the Discord itself, and I just want to make sure that we I see you, we see you, and we know that you guys see us, and we appreciate the continued support. And if there's moments of frustrations, moments of doubt, moments of insecurities, like, of course, absolutely share them, have them. But we appreciate you hanging in there with us, and we do believe that what we're building is worth you guys sticking around to watch.
Well, I think I appreciate it. I know you're a busy person. I know the company's busy. And I thank you. Tiger Discord thanks you. And anybody that listens to this, I know it'll be recorded for future listening. And at that, I think we're done, Megan.
All right, I appreciate it. You have a good evening. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
All right, bye.